Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're talking about how to prepare for a multi-day hike. Anyone who's ever done one knows that it is vastly different than a day hike, and if you don't prepare properly and take the right measures, it can quickly turn from a beautiful, challenging experience into an absolutely miserable one really quick. So today I'm going to walk you through how to be best prepared and how to make sure that you have the best experience possible. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is research your hike. Where will you be going? What will the weather be like? What will the terrain be like? What season are you going to be walking it in? This all varies greatly. You want to make sure that if you are doing this in an extremely hot season, you're going to have to prepare for other things. If you're doing this in a wet season, you're going to make sure you have to bring extra gear. You want to know beforehand, is this a serious incline? Is it a loop trail? Is this a trail where things are going to be readily accessible? Are you going to be near the water? Are you going to be in the wind? Are you going to be in the sun the entire time? So first things first is make sure you research your hike. Find out all these things. Make a list of weather, conditions, elevation, location. Is it a loop or a straight track? Make a list about exits and entry points so that you don't get lost. Make sure you study your map. Study your map well. You want to have an idea of how many kilometers you're going to be walking every day, how many total. If this day is going to be a particularly hard day, what days are going to be easier. You want to make sure you have a list of all those factors and make sure you have them in your head. That'll make planning the rest of your hike a lot easier, and it'll help you keep point of reference when you're hiking about how far you're going, how fast you're going, if you're keeping a good pace, if you need to speed it up. It's really essential to study the hike. Number 2, make sure you prepare your body beforehand. Let me tell you, the time to figure out how hard a hike is not on the hike. You don't want to be testing your body well on the hike. Make sure you do some workouts beforehand. Make sure you test out your gear beforehand. If you're hiking with a pack or a tent or anything like that, make sure you strap your pack on before and go for some walks around your neighborhood. Go for some day hikes. Hit the gym. Start lifting legs. Start doing some extra cardio. One thing that's especially helpful when you're hiking is get on that stair climber. You'll see that when you're hiking, more often than not, you're going to be climbing some elevation, and it gets a lot more taxing when you're carrying heavy gear. You may look silly walking around your neighborhood with a pack, but just do it. It'll help you out in the long run. One trick for this is to load your pack up pretty much exactly how you're going to be carrying it, or make sure that it's even a little bit heavier. A couple times I've done day hikes with heavier packs than I plan to carry, or a little bit more gear, just because I want to test myself and see how it's going to be on a longer hike. Because like I said, a day hike, if you're pretty tired after that day, remember, if you're doing a 6 or 7 or 10 day hike, you're going to be exponentially more tired every single day. Your pack's going to get heavier, your shoulders are going to get more sore, and your legs are going to be feeling it. So make sure you test your body out. Hit the gym, hit the stair climber, test with additional weight, and go on some test hikes. Okay, number 3. This is probably the most important one. Water, water, and water. Make sure you have every idea, every condition, every specification about water locked down before you go. I think one of the worst things that can happen during a hike, aside from breaking a bone or something like that, is running out of water. Especially when you're in a hot area. If you're hiking in Australia or Asia and it gets really dry, really muggy, and you run out of water, you'll see how fast that experience turns to miserable. So a couple things to keep in mind when it comes to water is how much are you going to need. Most hikers go on a 1 liter per 2 hour kind of rule, so that means you have a liter of water per every 2 hours of hiking. This is a good starting point, but keep in mind that it will change based on if you're in a hot environment or the elevation, or if it's particularly windy, if you're going to have to go through tougher terrain. Keep that in mind. On multiple different hikes, I've carried anywhere from 4 liters per day to 7 or 8 liters per day. That adds a lot of weight to your pack. A liter of water is roughly a kilo, and that really adds some weight to your pack. The good thing is through the day it decreases, but every day you're gonna have to refill that and start the day at your heaviest. The second thing to keep in mind with water is how far is it between refill points. So whether it's water tanks or fountains or lakes or rivers, how far of a distance is it between where you fill up your water and where you can next fill up your water? Sometimes these are even more than a day apart, so you have to keep that in mind and ration or schedule your hikes different. And this is probably the most essential too, is are you gonna have to treat that water or is it fresh water? So if you're hiking somewhere where you're gonna be passing convenience stores or water fountains, you probably don't have to worry about water treatment and water purification tablets or a filter or anything like that. But if you're hiking farther out in the wilderness and more in isolation, you're probably gonna have to treat your water. I would recommend to do it every time, just because you never know what's in that water and you don't wanna be getting a stomach sickness or a head cold or anything like that while you're on a hike. So are you gonna have to carry chlorine tablets or iodine tablets, or would you rather prefer a filter? This is one thing to look into. I always go with pretty much chlorine or iodine tablets. They're not the healthiest for you, but they are the lightest and I find they're the most convenient. Keep in mind that if you're drinking from a rainwater tank, treat that water as well. You don't know what has run off from that tank, if there's been animals in there, anything. A good rule of thumb is to always treat your water while on a hike. Okay, number 4, take care of your feet. Get a good pair of boots. Please don't be going on a multi-day hike where you're carrying a heavy pack and a pair of sneakers. And additionally, the most important thing when it comes to boots is make sure you break them in beforehand. Please don't put your boots on the first time on the first day of your hike or even the day before. You are going to get blisters. I guarantee you're going to get blisters, and I guarantee you that'll turn your hike into something miserable. So get a good pair of boots and hike in them a couple times beforehand. I recommend at least 2 weeks beforehand wearing them for at least 24 hours in total on your feet. Make sure you go on a couple day hikes, walk them around your neighborhood. If they're clean, put them on while you're walking around the house. Really essential. You will not regret it in the long run when it helps you prevent blisters. Chances are you might even get a blister anyway while hiking. It's pretty damn common, but if you wear your boots in, it's a lot less likely and it eliminates the guarantee of it. Number 2 with that is to make sure you have a good pair of socks. Bamboo or merino wool socks are excellent, and a lot of people layer up twice in a hot environment. Maybe it's not the best idea, but change them often as well. I change my socks 2 to 3 times a day when I'm hiking, depending on how much I'm sweating, how hot it is, how strenuous the day is. This keeps moisture off your foot, and you don't want that anywhere near your foot because, again, that just promotes blisters, and that's just gonna turn it into a really shitty time really fast. The next one is to plan your meals. Now, this really depends on your nutrition, your diet, how you're going to be hiking, if you're going to be in a very isolated area. Some people even prefer to live off the land, so some people rely on fishing and stuff like that. I really wouldn't recommend this for your first hike. Actually, I wouldn't recommend it in general. I would always recommend carrying some food with you, because fishing and living off fish and only eating what you catch sounds glorious and stuff like that, but a lot of the time it's really unpredictable and you don't want to be going 5 days without food. So no matter what, bring some food with you just in case. I pretty much always carry dehydrated meals. They are super light, they have a lot of nutrients and calories in them, and they're very quick. And the good thing about them is they don't take up any space in your pack very much. Like, you can carry 7 days worth of food pretty much in a size that big, and it's easy to take out with me. Remember, one of the things with hiking is leave no trace. Whatever you bring in, you're gonna have to bring out. So do not bring cans, do not bring Tupperware containers, anything like that. It takes up space, it adds weight, and it's just a waste of your time. Another thing to keep in mind is your nutrients. So in terms of vitamins and stuff like that, I always recommend you bring some vitamins. So magnesium is great for sore muscles or anything like that. So carry a little bit of magnesium with you to make sure you have some electrolytes. So I always carry the electrolyte tablets that come in a like convenient little tube. Pop one of those into my bladder every day, and that pretty much keeps me in check, because water alone won't replenish the electrolytes that you're burning through your sweat and through your hiking and stuff like that. Also super important for your hike, and might be a no-brainer, but I'm gonna tell you anyway, is pack light and pack right. Don't bring anything that you do not need. When you're hiking for 7 days, you'll see that everything gets heavy, and a lot of the stuff, more often than not, you'll never use. I make this mistake almost every time I go hiking, especially because I do photography and I make videos while I go. I'm always bringing extra equipment that I never used, or regretting that I brought this, or I'm like, God, I haven't used this. I brought this for 4 hikes and never used it. It happens, but keep in mind, anything you do not need, don't bring. For example, on a 7-day hike, you don't need 4 pairs of shorts. You don't need 7 shirts. A lot of people are like, oh, I need to change clothes every day. You just don't. Chances are, no matter where you are, you're gonna be swimming. There's gonna be somewhere where you can either wash your clothes or rinse off, and you're hiking. So it really doesn't matter. No matter what, when you come out of that path, you're not gonna be smelling the greatest. So Please don't bring a new pair of clothes for every day, with the exception of underwear or socks. Make sure you're changing those regularly. And another thing is to pack right. Make sure you bring the right equipment for the right conditions. That means sunscreen, that means a hat, that means is it bug season, so bring some bug spray. All that stuff is really gonna help you out, and that's the research beforehand that is really gonna come in handy and you're not gonna regret. Trust me, if you go out on a hike and you're like, oh, the bugs won't be that bad, and you didn't research that it's incredibly muggy and it's super bug season right now, it's gonna suck for you. Bug spray alone then probably won't even help you. Another thing, especially in Australia, that was helpful is a bug screen. Like it's a net that you put over your hat or something like that. That was essential because the bugs go right for your eyes. One thing to keep in mind is, are you going for a tent or are you going for a hammock? In different locations, each of them has their benefits. So a hammock is nice and light, but if you're hiking in somewhere like Australia where there's only low-lying shrubs and stuff like that, might not be the best idea. If you're hiking in North America and you're going through the redwoods and something like that, chances are you'll be fine with a hammock. That's, again, do your research on the hike and see what equipment is best for you for that hike. The final on this list, and is very important and a lot of people kind of overlook it, is a first aid kit. Now, I'm not saying you need to bring stitches and crazy bandages and like crutches and all that kind of stuff. Just bring a basic first aid kit. For example, the most commonly used thing in a first aid kit is bandages. Make sure you use that, because if you have a blister, you're gonna wanna put something on it. Bring bandages, bring some basic wrap, bring some Tylenol or ibuprofen, even though I don't recommend using it, but if you do get hurt, it'll come in handy. Make sure you carry some sunscreen in there, maybe a bandana, possibly some moisturizer or bug treatment, anything like that. If there's gonna be somewhere like where it's poison ivy or poison oak, make sure you bring some spray for that. Stuff like that. Some antiseptic spray or cream is really essential as well. So just bring some basic stuff. It shouldn't have to be much larger than something like your phone, and it can easily put in your backpack, and hopefully you'll never use it, but it's always good to have, and it's something you should have on every hike you do. Okay, that's it guys. I hope that was helpful to you, and remember, the most important thing you do is research. Research the equipment, research the hike, look up what other people have done, look up what other people are recommending. If it's a popular hike, no doubt there will be a blog or some kind of post about it, or even the national park will probably have recommendations on how to do that hike and what to bring, what season to do it in. Pretty much covering every category that I've just mentioned is do your research, read into it, and make sure you are prepared for that hike. So that's it guys. I would love to hear about your first hike or other hikes you've done. Feel free to talk to me about it in the comment section below. All right, cheers.